From the Wayne County Courthouse in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne Goldsboro Television brings you the meeting of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. The meeting begins shortly with an agenda briefing, then the regular meeting will begin soon after. Please stand by for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Going to call our meeting to order on our pre-agenda meeting, so we go over the agenda and discuss those items. As we're going through the agenda, we'll have a call to order. The invocation will be presented by Commissioner John Bell. The pledge of you got someone?
I have a visitor today.
You have a visitor?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Sharon Pierce's baby brother.
Oh, okay. So you'll be introducing him. Well, great. The Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Ed Cromartie. Approval of the minutes, that's an action item, so I'll need a motion on the approval of the minutes of January 19th. Any adjustments to the agenda? It seems like we've got a number of them.
Got a few. A lot of things came in at the last minute, so I wanted to go over these with you. I think we've given you out three. The first is, and all of these would be added under new business. The first one is that we do have the CMAR recommendation to you, and you have a memo on that. I'm not going to go into detail on that until the 9 o'clock meeting, if that's agreeable with you.
So that's going to be item number 3?
Yes.
The second page.
Second page, under new business. And then on the Stewart Cooper Newell contract for architects, we'd like to table that for 2 more weeks. I have negotiated the design portion of the agreement with them, but I'm waiting on some information back from them on part of the second part, which is the study.
All right, so item number 2, we are going to remove that.
That's correct.
So item 2 is removed. Construction manager risk is now number 2.
That's right. And then you have a memo from me. I am going to go over that now with you, and that is the one that's possible refinancing of the debt on the 2 new middle schools. We literally finished this yesterday afternoon, is why you didn't have it in the agenda packet. But let me just read over this a little bit. The county entered into an installment financing agreement on July 14th, 2014 with SunTrust Bank to finance the construction of Spring Creek and Grantham Middle Schools. The amount financed was $38,452,000 at an annual interest rate of 3.55% for 20 years. This is an excellent interest rate, and we were extremely pleased with it. However, the finance director and county manager's office have been working with our financial consultants, Davenport and Company, and they have recommended a possible refinancing of this debt to an even lower interest rate. The recent bond market would allow us to refinance over a 19-year period at an all-in true interest cost of 2.739%.
That is amazing.
It is amazing. 19-year debt at that rate. I'd like to get a mortgage like that. This would not change the number of years that the debt was financed, but it would save the county $2,945,896 after deducting the bond issuance cost and the bond underwriter's discount. Attached is a spreadsheet from Davenport showing that this would average about $155,000 in annual savings over the 19 years. So if you take a look at the spreadsheet that I've given you, it's the next to last page. You'll see that that's a 19-year amortization schedule. In the far right column shows the annual savings. Does everybody see that? You can see that it's pretty consistent, but it averages right about $155,000 each year. And then it has the total of the $2,945,000. Now that assumes we could get that interest rate. And the bond par amount would be $32,515,000, because remember, we've paid off part of what we borrowed already. We've made some payments on that. I want to stress that the favorable market conditions can change positively or negatively during the approximately 75 days process. That's why our agreement with all the professionals working on this, which is Davenport, the bond counsel, and bond underwriter, would not be paid unless we actually closed on this transaction. This would be a negotiated, not a competitive bid sale or issuance of limited obligation bonds. And I'll come back to that in a minute and explain the difference. It would entail our getting a bond rating from at least Moody's Investor Services and possibly from S&P. We estimate that we should be in the range of a double A minus rating. We propose two strategies to accomplish this savings. The first is for Davenport to contact SunTrust and inform them that we are contemplating a refinancing, which would, of course, pay off their loan. They would then be asked if they are interested in voluntarily agreeing to lower their interest rate to the then prevailing market rate. Second, if SunTrust does not want to do so, Davenport would proceed with the 19-year term negotiated sale of new limited obligation bonds that would be used to repay SunTrust and leave us with new debt at a lower interest rate. Assistant County Manager Tommy Burns, Finance Director Allison Spate, and I met by phone with Ted Cole of Davenport this afternoon for a detailed discussion of this matter, and we recommend that you approve this two-stage process to begin immediately. We need to capture these favorable market rates as soon as possible, and that's why I'm bringing it to you to add to the agenda today to cut 2 weeks off the process. Let me stress that we have been discussing the need for a new E911 center, with the building costing about $2.5 million and the computer and other electronic equipment costing about $2.5 million. This $2,945,000 in savings over a 19-year period would cover a large portion of the proposed 20-year debt service necessary to fund this project. In addition, I had Mrs. Spade update our emergency telephone system funds reserves. At June 30th, 2015, per the audit, we had $1,662,950 on hand. For the fiscal year 16 budget that we're in now, we appropriated $287,028 of that fund balance. That would leave $1,375,922 available for this project. If you add that to the $2,945,000 of savings, that would give us $4.32 million towards the funding of this approximately $5 million project. The only additional expense would be the interest expense on the debt service. In addition, there is a distinct possibility that we can get State 911 Board grant funding for some of the equipment costs. Y'all remember we were not able to get facilities grants, but we would be eligible for the equipment grants, and we would certainly pursue that as well. This refinancing would significantly reduce our need for additional funding for the proposed E911 center. So I think y'all can see this would be very advantageous to us, and so we want to add this to the agenda, ask that you authorize us to have Davenport proceed with these two steps. And the first would be see if SunTrust will voluntarily take a reduction in their interest rates, which could, if they agree, could happen within a 2-week time period, and we could lock in these favorable rates. If not, then we need to proceed on with the second step, which is to do this bond refinancing. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is there a with SunTrust, is there a penalty for early payoff?
No, the way we structured that, there was no prepayment penalty at all.
Okay.
Now, there will be on the new ones. The limited obligation bonds are different from the installment purchase contract we used. You would not be able to start calling any of those bonds until after 10 years. But at that interest rate, I can't believe we would be doing this again.
Well, we couldn't believe we were going to be doing it again
I
a year
know,
later.
I know, it's amazing.
But you've heard the presentation, and what we're going to need is a motion to authorize Mr. Wood to proceed on that negotiation. So someone will need to make a motion when this is presented.
Okay.
You want me to?
If you will. All right, so Commissioner Aycock will be making that motion.
Okay. The next item, Tommy, you want to give an update on that? This is engineering contract recommendation for the Wayne Executive Jet Pool.
Good morning, Commissioners. Every 5 years, the airport is required to issue a request for qualifications for an airport consulting engineer. And that timeline lapsed on December 31st of this year. We issued an RFQ in December. We evaluated those RFQs in January, and an interview panel comprised of the county manager, myself, the purchasing manager, the interim airport manager, and the chairman of the airport advisory committee. We met and forwarded a recommendation to the airport advisory committee to engage the W.K. Dixon firm in Raleigh. The airport advisory committee, we met last night or yesterday afternoon about 5 o'clock, and they unanimously approved the recommendation to send to the county commissioners to engage with W.K. Dixon, company out of Raleigh. Their engineering company had several project managers and engineers that had worked at the airport in years prior, and they had a detailed knowledge of our airport and the types of projects that we need to push forward in the next few years. So we're requesting that you authorize the county manager's office to negotiate a consulting engineering contract with W.K. Dixon. This would keep us in compliance with our grant requirements for both the federal and state aviation grants. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions? All right, we will need a motion to take action on that item. That would be item 4 under new business. And is there a commissioner that wishes to make that motion? Certainly. Okay. So Commissioner Gurley will be making that motion.
And the one other thing we'd like to add to the agenda is this monthly NCACC video update that came in after we had done the agenda. That's about, what, 7 to 8 minutes?
I think they shortened it to 3 or 4 now.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So those are the additions. We will need a closed session for several items.
Okay. All right, moving along here, we will be having a special recognition on the retirement of Linda Hood Overton with the Office of Emergency Services.
And Tommy will be
Tommy
doing
is going to be
that.
doing that. Okay. Appointment committee, have we got any appointments?
We have 3.
We do. So we have 3 appointments. 9:15, we'll have public comments. I do remind everyone that this is our first session where you actually are signing up and indicating whether it's an agenda or a non-agenda item. The sign-up sheets are right in the rear of the room. At 9:30 a.m., we will be having a public hearing to receive public comments on the preliminary assessment resolution for Canterbury Village and North Creek subdivisions.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Okay.
we have handed out to you another resolution on that. If you recall, we've been following state statute verbatim on this process, but the process you approved adds one public hearing, which is the second public hearing when we have the cost figures.
Right.
And so I talked as late as yesterday with Giles Harrell from DOT. I'm confident that we'll have those numbers very shortly. So what I'm going to ask that you do is, after that public hearing, we will not vote. The statute says that you may vote to do the final assessment resolution, but our policy says we'll hold the second public hearing on it. So what this resolution here does, that I'm asking you to pass after the public hearing today, actually calls for that second public hearing on March the 2nd. And if you recall, we have to give about 3 weeks' notice. Isn't that right, Marcia? So this would give Marcia time to give that notice once we have the numbers from Giles. And we should have those by the end of the week, early part of next week. So I think everything matches up on that.
So what you're recommending us to do is have the public hearing, after the public hearing, that we go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the resolution?
To call the second public hearing.
To call the second.
Because remember, the second public hearing is when we actually have the dollar figures from DOT. And then, so,
I beg your pardon?
We're gonna hold this public hearing.
We're gonna hold the public hearing, but after the public hearing, are you asking that we pass this resolution that
Yes.
you've handed out?
yes, and if you'll notice what it says, skip all the whereases, get down to the now therefore at the bottom of the page.
Right.
It says the board hereby declares its intent to undertake the project. All of this is a repeat of what you've already adopted at the preliminary assessment. But on section 7, this is what has changed. Board of Commissioners hereby adopts an order setting March 1, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. in the Board of Commissioners meeting room as the date, time, and location for the second public hearing on all matters covered by the preliminary assessment resolution. At said meeting, the final assessment resolution may be adopted by the Board of Commissioners following the public hearing, at which the specific special assessment figures will be discussed. So when we send out the notice, once you do this, when we get the numbers, we'll send out those notices to the public, the affected people in there. We'll also put the ad in the paper as required, so those are the public notices that are required. People will then know what their assessment will be. They'll come to that second public hearing, and that's when they tell us, do they still want their name on the petition or not?
I'm a little confused by that now, because if I'm understanding you, you're saying that NCDOT is going to review and create a punch list. We are going to go ahead and put out for bids.
You won't put out for bids yet.
Well, then what is these numbers that we are?
Well, that's their estimate. That's DOT's estimate of what the cost will be.
So we are going to just use the estimates as to the assessment?
Yeah. And remember the process then. So you go forward. If the people decide and you still have 75% wanting to do it, part of this is you would vote to say, we're going forward with the project. Okay? At that point, then we would go out and do the bidding. Okay? You would award the contracts, and then you would come back at the end of the project, and you basically true up the final cost and the final assessment at that point. But you go with an engineer's estimate to start with.
Go ahead, Commissioner May.
Clarification, do they have to be present at the public hearing either to add their name or else to take their name off, or, because you got a lot of people,
No, that would not have to be.
so how would they proceed otherwise if they weren't here at the hearing?
Well, if they had put their name on and wanted it off, they could submit a written statement to Marcia.
Okay, because I know there's some people who are probably out of state.
Or they could come.
Either way, okay, I just thought that would be helpful for the public to know that.
Yes, and the other thing we want to stress, remember that if it's jointly owned, it's just like the original petition. They've both got to agree to, they both have to tell us their intent. So if it's jointly owned property, both the husband and wife have to tell us they want to be on or tell us they want to be off. And if they're split, then that counts as a no vote, because if you don't have both of them, you don't have a valid petition saying they want it.
Let me say it a little differently. If they want to get on it, both owners have to say yes. If one of them wants to get off, just one of them can get off. And that takes them both off.
Yeah. What he said.
That'd be great. Well, my concern is that, I'm just discussing it openly here, but my concern is we're using estimates rather than actual figures. And everybody knows that NCDOT figures, their estimates are going to be high. I mean, they don't work on the cheap, that's for sure.
Right.
So my concern is if they are estimating the cost to be, and each property owner would be allocated, I'm going to use a number of $15,000 that's going to be assessed. Then we go, after the public hearing, then we go ahead and get the actual bids, and it comes in at $10,000. First of all, I'm not real happy with the fact that the contractors would be knowing that the estimated figure would be 15,000, so therefore their bids may be somewhat to that number. So I'm a little concerned about the process here.
Well, remember, the competition among the contractors will keep the price down. Because, and remember, we're only using DOT qualified contractors.
But this is the procedure
This is
and the
the
policies
process.
that we have in place.
That's right.
All right, well, if
And
that's the
you
case-
will not, you wouldn't know the cost, the total cost at completion until the project's completed anyway, because even when you get the bids, we may have change orders.
Yeah.
So what we do is, and the state statute is clear on that, you go through and finish the project, then we come back and at a third meeting, you then adjust for the final assessment process, and that's when you actually assess them.
Okay, Commissioner Mayo.
Real quick, there's not a penalty to keep the subdivisions from moving forward. That's the key, is that no matter what the DOT says, it's not gonna cost the homeowners anything to move forward anyway to get the final bids and assessment.
Well, that's right. If you recall, at one point, we were looking at, we would have to hire an engineer, and DOT agreed that they would do, not only create the punch list, but they would take that punch list and give us an estimate of what their cost would be based on their most recent pricing and things like that. So this contract, I mean, this estimate should be pretty clear, but I do agree with the chairman. If anything, it's going to be, it may be a little high. And because we've also told them, we don't want them coming back and saying it's going to take more. You know, it's a lot easier to adjust the number down. But
That was my point.
But when you see the estimate, you know, when we have the next meeting, we have that, don't be surprised if it's a little high.
All right, so we're gonna have the public hearing, and then, right after that public hearing, we're gonna go ahead and ask for action to be taken on.
Yes, and
A motion to approve this resolution.
Which calls for the second public hearing, because at
That's
that
correct.
point, we'll have the numbers, and that's what our policy says we'll do. And remember, we added this step to the state policy. The state policy doesn't contemplate that you would let people know what it's gonna cost beforehand. We didn't think that was particularly fair to the homeowners, so we felt like we should insert a second public hearing once we had a cost estimate.
All right, any more questions or comments regarding how we are proceeding with this particular action item?
You make the motion.
Yes.
Let me make one comment first. But we're gonna keep on moving fairly as quick as we can on this project.
This is as quick as we can move.
Sure.
And that's why I wanted you to adopt this resolution.
That's faster than I
Because,
anticipated.
and the reason I'm stressing that we need to go ahead and move as quick as we can on this, if the bond referendum passes, there's gonna be a whole lot of money in that bond referendum for road maintenance and construction
Right,
on the state side.
that's right.
And we need to capitalize on, go ahead and getting this project. What I'm saying, it may save the homeowner some money.
Well, you're right, and the other thing to point out is we would be hitting the prime construction season, particularly for asphalt. We couldn't do it right now anyway, the asphalt plants typically close in the winter. So we'll hit the right construction time period on this.
All right, so when we conclude that, then we'll have an action, a motion by Commissioner Mayo. From there, we will recess the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting. We will convene as the Wayne County Board of Adjustment meeting. So we then are going to call to order the Board of Adjustment. We will have a public hearing to receive comments on a proposed special use permit for solar energy facilities, and there are two of them.
Yes.
Welcome.
Good morning. We have two cases this morning. The first one is a application for a special use permit for Robin Solar LLC. It is located at 898 O'Berry Road. Property owner is Mr. Frank Hines. Developer is Sunlight Partners. It's located in the Brogden Township. The proposed energy facility is a 5-megawatt AC facility on 29 acres of land. It is, according to, it is located within the airspace control surface area for Seymour Johnson, and by our ordinance, it requires a special use permit be issued by the Board of Adjustments. And that's why this case is before you. As evidence supporting the issuance, I have a site plan, the owner's consent form submitted to you. We also have a letter from the Department of the Air Force reviewing this site, authorizing it, that it's in compliance. We also have the removal or decommissioning plan, abandonment plan. And as the Board of Adjustments, you're looking to, when issuing a special use permit, the Board of Adjustments must consider that permission may be granted for the establishment of special use as shown in the district regulations if the Board of Adjustments finds from the evidence produced after a study of complete records that the proposal does not affect adversely the general plans for physical development of the county and will not be contrary to the purposes stated in those regulations. Item B, the proposed use will not adversely affect the health, safety of the county residents and will not be detrimental to the use or development of adjacent properties or other neighborhood uses. Item C, the proposed use will not be affected adversely by existing uses and will be placed on a lot of sufficient size to satisfy the space requirements. Item D, the proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or hazard because of the number of persons who will use such a facility. Item E, the proposed use shall be subject to the minimum dimensional requirements of the district. Can issue a special use permit if your findings are favorable. You could impose additional restrictions as you would require. The Wayne County Board of Adjustment is conducting this public hearing. Supporting documents were the site plan, the ground lease agreement, the decommissioning plan, and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base input. Site plan has been approved by the Wayne County Planning Board. Item number 2 is.
Let me go back to that one.
Okay.
And the board, the planning board recommends approval.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The second solar farm is Wilfork Solar. It's located at 385 Dollpate Road. Same developer, Sunlight Partners. It's a 5-megawatt facility located on 24 acres of land. The solar plant interconnected to Duke Progress. It is, site currently is agricultural, located on the west side of Dollpate Road, 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stony Creek Church Road. It is within the airspace control surface area for Seymour Johnson, requires a special use permit as per the ordinance. It does meet the minimum requirements outlined in the ordinance for setbacks, fencing, landscaping buffer, signage. That site plan was approved by the planning board. As supporting evidence, you have the site plan, a ground lease agreement, the decommissioning plan, and input from Seymour Johnson authorizing. So a sign was posted at each of these sites, advertisement was run in the newspaper, and adjoining property owners were notified by first-class mail.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Crump?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I'm looking, just verifying on page 72, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base doesn't have any problem with either one of these two solar farms.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, and it is our understanding we are having a public hearing on that based upon the comments. The board may or may not take action immediately after that public hearing. So I will leave it to the decision of the commissioners as to whether or not you may or may not wish to make a motion after we have this public hearing. Now, as such, do I have to go out of and adjourn the Board of Adjustment and go back in as commissioners?
The Board of Adjustment that makes the.
Okay.
That
All right.
takes the action. So you close the public hearing,
then if you want to get the Board of Adjustment, if you, sitting as the Board of Adjustment, want to take that.
See, that's why we pay you the big bucks to keep me straight. Okay, so we need to take that action. If we take that action, we need to take that action as the Board of Adjustment.
Yes, sir.
Before we go back in as Board of Commissioners. And I would suggest that we do not have opposition, that we go ahead and take some action. We will then reconvene the Wayne County Board of, thank you, Mr. Crowe. We are going to adjourn the Wayne County Board of Adjustment and reconvene the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting, at which time we will discuss unfinished business. And under unfinished business, we need a motion to approve the bid for the lease of farmland at Park East. Mr. Wood.
Yes, if you look at page 81 in your packet, you have a memo from Noel Woods, our purchasing manager. What we have here is 3 bids. We had Russell Waters at $181.50 an acre, Carlton Alphen at $177.50 an acre, and Luther Potter at $125 an acre. These are the properties at Park East, Gateway Drive, and we've listed all of the others that we've included. This is the highest rate per acre that we've gotten on any of our farm leases. And just to remind the commission, we had leased out the farm land a year ago, and it was for a 3-year term. Then we realized that we had the land at Park East that was also being farmed, so we've added that to the list. That's what this is. So this lease would be for 2 years, because our plan is all of these leases in the future would be done together every 3 years. And again, we got what we thought was good pricing on the original ones, but we got even better pricing on this. So obviously, our recommendation is you go with the highest bidder of $181.50, which is Mr. Russell Waters.
All right, with that in mind and with the recommendation, I think there'd be very little opposition to that. Which commissioner would like to make a motion to approve that bid?
I'll take it.
Okay. Commissioner Gurley.
And I'd just like to add, we want to thank the chairman for bringing that to our attention. Riding through one day and seeing a cornfield, we didn't realize somebody was farming it, but we know now.
Well, I'm just glad we didn't have to buy any barbed wire fencing.
This is true.
Okay, we're going to go to consent agenda. There are 5 items under our consent agenda. The applications for present use value. Mr. Wood?
These are some more of the requests we get. As y'all know, virtually at every meeting, we have an application for present use value from Phil Edmondson. You have his letter. And Alan Lumpkin, you have the memo from him saying it would be approved had he filed it timely. And we would recommend approval of that.
And then we have on page 85.
Yes, Edna Faye Cruz Williams is requesting present use value, and her letter is on page 88, I'm sorry, page 87. And this is a tract that was split between the children, and so they've continued to farm it. It was just an oversight, and there was also some medical conditions of some of the parents in this, so we feel this is valid as well.
All right, unless there's any objection, then we're going to leave item 1, application for present use value, on the consent agenda. Next item is amnesty days for 2016 at the Wayne County landfill.
Right, this is something you do every year. We do it twice a year. We're proposing that you do one on May 7th and one on October 1. And Amnesty Day is literally where we just waive disposal fees for residents, but not for commercial businesses or haulers. So if people have something that's been at the house and they want to get rid of it, if it's a bulky item or something, this is time to do that because there's no charge at the gate for that during these 2 days.
All right, hearing no objection, we're moving on to appointment of the chairman of the Wayne County Tourism Development Authority.
And Mr. Pate may want to handle this, but basically, We had our first joint meeting the other
That's
day of the two tourism boards. And the one difference is, as we tried to match those boards up, and if you remember, we're trying to match them up completely, they'll have to go from, I believe, Bill, it's a 9-member board to a 12. Our state law, the way all the numbers work out, we needed 12. But the difference is they let their chairman be elected from among their membership. Our new state legislation says you are to appoint the chairman. And
We just felt like it would be seamless, the fact that Gretchen Reed had already been, is the new elected chairman of the other board, just to go ahead and to recommend that she stay in that slot and to cover both positions for us.
Right.
And I think she'll do an excellent job, and that was the vote of the board. That was the recommendation.
And she's comfortable with that?
Yes, we begged her.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding, she's fine with it.
All right, moving on to item 4, allocate funds to the town of Fremont for North Wayne lift station repair.
Okay. You have a memo from me on page 90. I'll just read this very quickly, because I think it explains it. I've got attached a letter from Town Manager Barbara Aycock. Actually, it's from the mayor. It came from Barbara's office, so I just assumed she sent it. But anyway, it's from Town Manager Barbara Aycock, setting out their need for $70,000 to fix the sewer pump station serving Norwayne Middle School. Fremont has made every effort to get a community development block grant to cover this cost, but has just been turned down for the 4th time. It is a serious problem that must be fixed, and it's putting them in a financial bind. If you recall, we set aside an unallocated $50,000 of the Eastern Region funds with the understanding that they might need it if the grant did not come through. I am proposing that you take the other $20,000 from the current allocation of $45,000 for the town of Pikeville. Our finance department contacted Pikeville, and they are okay with this reallocation because they've not gone through with their project. Therefore, I recommend, and the Facilities Committee concurs, that you reallocate the existing $50,000 of unallocated and $20,000 of the Pikeville allocation of Eastern Region funds to the town of Fremont for their sewer system. The terms and conditions would be the same as they were on the original allocations. And Mr. Mike McAllister is here today with Municipal Engineering. He is the engineering consultant for the town of Fremont who has helped them with this process. So he's available if you have any questions on it. But basically, this sewer lift station continues to deteriorate, and it absolutely has to be done. So with that, if you have any questions of Mike, we'd be happy to.
Does anyone have any questions on that? Commissioner Mayor?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Well, it's going to be on consent agenda.
Oh, it's consent, I'm sorry.
Okay, there's no questions or any comments, we're moving on now to budget.
Mr. Chairman, there is one
Okay.
point I need to make. Marcia reminded me, is we have handed out a corrected budget amendment, number 285.
That's correct.
Allison has fixed that. We originally had only the 20,000 being reallocated, but we also realized we need to do the 50,000 as well. So the amended one is to appropriate all 70,000 from those two sources.
Okay, and we're going to go through the budget amendments at this time, so that at that time, yes, Commissioner, real quick.
Mr. McAllister's here. I'm just wondering if it would be out of order, rather than him wait, till the regular session, if we could, would it be possible to hear for him now?
Well, are there any questions of any board members on the need for this and the authorization of it? If there's no question, then we'll excuse him then, because we're going to leave it on the consent agenda, and we can proceed on.
Down Fremont, I think Barbara was going to be here today. She texted me about 5:30 this morning, said she was sick, so
Sure.
I said, I'll handle it. So I certainly appreciate y'all's consideration.
Well, we appreciate the fact that Pikeville was understanding and will allow for the reallocation, so it all worked out very well.
Right.
Okay, now on to budget amendments.
As Mr. Wood mentioned, your first one is number 285, that's the one for $70,000, where we're allocating reallocating the Eastern Region funds to Fremont. You have budget amendment for $55,043. This is for the school resource officers, and this is to anticipate funds received from the schools for the school resource officer at the central office. You have a budget amendment for $9,160.
Could I back up on this school resource
Sure.
officer? Because there was some question here, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that this particular position is going to involve more than actually being a school resource officer. That individual will be coordinating the school resource officers
That's
for the
correct.
system.
And basically what they're doing is they had a civilianized employee who did a lot of this additional work that the chairman's speaking of. She'll be retiring, and so essentially what the superintendent wants to do is to, by having a school resource officer, they can take care of the duties she was doing, but in addition, you then do have a uniformed officer at the central office if they're needed.
Okay.
I just one question. Is there some indication that the resource officer has the same experiences that the previous person had? Are we mixing apples and oranges in that position?
Well, he feels like that he's adequately prepared to do that. They went through a selection process with the sheriff, so he feels like he can do that.
Well, and one follow-up question. Has the danger at the central office progressed to the point that we need a uniformed officer with a gun out there? I mean, has that been
Well,
questioned?
it's not just there, it's at different locations, and a lot of it, what they'll be doing is security analysis and SRO training, and working with the other SROs. In other words, this person will be a liaison for all the other SROs as well. But to answer your question, I can't say that it's gotten worse. I think Dr. Dunsmore feels like it would be advantageous to have the person there. Certainly if somebody did come in and was being disruptive, then obviously it would help to have an SRO there as opposed to a civilian employee dealing with that.
Okay.
Okay. Your next budget amendment should be for $9,160, and that's for the health department to appropriate funds awarded by the state and allocate monies for the purchase of wellness equipment with that program. You have a budget amendment for $15,168 for solid waste. This is to reallocate funds for replacement of one of their compactors. Your next budget amendment is $274.78 for the library. This is donations received to appropriate those monies. You have a budget amendment for $12,107 for the health department. This is to reflect a reduction in state monies received. You have a budget amendment for $10,000 for the detention center, and this is to appropriate funds for additional uniforms needed. Your next budget amendment is $10,530 for the detention center, and this is to appropriate funds for scanning of their records. You have a budget amendment for $150,000 for the detention center to appropriate funds for inmate medical expenses. And then your final budget amendment is for facility services, $123,937. This is to appropriate funds for Phase 1 of Wayne Manufacturing Center, and it includes the monies anticipated from WCDA.
So the bulk of that money would actually be WCDA money. That's the $100,000 from Impact Wayne coming in. If I could back up to number 279, I'd just like to
Thank you.
I'd like to make a few comments on that. As y'all know, when we arrest someone and they're under our control, by state law, we are responsible for their health. And I can't go into the particular details of one inmate that we have because of the HIPAA requirements, but this person has some very serious medical conditions. The problem is, Gordon, I think, does a very good job of when we have minor offenses, if they have major medical problems, we try to get those people bonded and bailed out just as fast as we can, because once they're bailed out, they're no longer our responsibility. Problem we've got here is this guy has severe medical conditions, and he's been arrested for murder. So obviously we can't bond out somebody who's being charged with murder. So it's a major problem for us. And the problem we have is, this person has severe enough medical problems that we've had to transfer them. They call it for safekeeping, but it's up to central prison. So he's actually in the state prison system, but they don't eat the cost on that. He's still ours. So I wanted to explain to y'all what's happened there. I guess this falls under the category of unavoidable, but it's doggone expensive.
Okay, any other questions on budget amendments? If not, we're gonna need a motion to approve the consent agenda. And who would like to make that motion? Okay, Commissioner Pate. All right, next item is gonna be a presentation on the Wayne County Comprehensive Annual Financial Audit. And we've allocated 45 minutes for that. I do want to make note to the entire board that this presentation is actually to you as individual commissioners and this board from your auditor. So as such, in speaking with them, if you feel like there's any matters that you questioned or any matters that you would like to, as the presentation is going on, they would prefer those questions as they make the presentation. So if there's an item that comes up and you have a question that comes up, please signify to me and I'll recognize you and then you would issue that question. I know in the past we have gone through that and we waited until the end of the audit, but if you've got anything that you think is really pressing as that's presented, they have no problem with an interruption. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, the next item is a motion, well, I'm sorry, we've removed that.
That's right, that's tabled.
So item 2, again, will be the construction manager at risk. Number 3 is going to be the financing of the middle schools, and then the authorization approval on W.K. Dickerson. We'll have county manager's comments, board of commissioner committee reports. We are having lunch today, and we are visiting Mount Olive. And the entire board is more than welcome to go, and I think it's great that we're moving about our county and visiting in different areas in our county. So today we are going to be having that in Mount Olive at Ribeyes, I believe. Okay, we do have a closed session, however, we do not have time at this point to have closed session. Is that correct? Or is that, how quickly can we have a closed session? We only have 5 minutes. I do not think that we can take that at this time. I beg your pardon?
About signing up.
Do recognize that we do have a sign-up sheet for public comments. And if anyone would like to, of course, have public comment, please indicate what the sign-up sheet is in the rear and indicate whether or not that is an agenda item or a non-agenda item. Okay, with that in mind, we are going to go into recess until hopefully 9 o'clock. So this is a 5-minute recess.